All right, I know it's against masquerade rules, but I think it would be a great intro if you let me embrace you.
What is that? What is embrace? Like hug me?
No. It's it's when a kindred feeds on someone.
A kindred? It's like kindling, like fire?
No, it's when a vampire bites someone.
Ew. No. Also, ow.
No, it does. No. It won't hurt. Watch. Ow! Oh
my god, are you actually bleeding? No. Hi everybody, welcome to GameGorgon. My name is Krug.
I'm Indigo.
Today we're here to talk to you about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, the longest title of anything that has ever existed.
See it again.
We're gonna talk about Bloodlines 2, but I thought it was also really important to talk about the fact that this is going to be a direct sequel of a game that came out 15 years ago.
Wow.
Not only did it come out 15, it's made by a different developer.
Okay.
And it sold and did extremely poorly.
Oh, great.
So it's such a very interesting idea.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah. So Vampire the Masquerade was made by Torok. It's a really hard name to pronounce.
Where is it? Troika.
It's a Russian word for basically three of any kind.
Oh, okay.
And
if you want to make fun of our pronunciation, let us know how stupid we are in the comments down below.
Yeah, because we didn't talk to the one person that we know that speaks Russian, and we could have easily asked her.
And also, your words are reflective of our skin, like things that are reflective.
What?
Your words reflect off of our skin!
Trachea was made by Tim Kaine, Leonard Boyarsky, and Jason Anderson. The reason that these names are important is they were the developers of Fallout 2.
Ooh.
And once Fallout 2 ended, their negotiation with Insight didn't go very well, and so they ended up leaving and creating their own, where they ended up making three games before the studios actually closed their door.
Gotcha.
The final game that they made was Bloodline, which in itself was a very popular game within its community.
Sure.
But there was a lot of issues that plagued it.
Like what?
So one, it was one of the beta users for Source, which is Valve's engine, right?
Dang.
And
that's pretty cool, actually.
It's very cool. The problem with it is that because they were using the beta, the engine actually kept getting updated, and a lot of their code that they had created while making the game.
Oh yeah. They have to rewrite stuff constantly because they keep changing fundamentally how Source works while they're actively developing with it. Mm-hmm. Seems like a dumb choice.
And then not only that, they had an embargo, Valve had an embargo on them, saying that you can't publicly talk about your game, and your game can't release until after Half-Life releases, which was Valve's first official game using Source. Yeah, so...
That's rough.
Yeah.
Hold on, why would you agree to that? Hey, use our buggy product that's going to constantly change and force you to rewrite your game, when also there are these huge restrictions on what you can and can't do with the game you're developing.
Well,
that's rough.
Well, I think that in itself wouldn't have been bad because you could just push the release for after Half-Life comes out and after
or plan the entire development after
Half-Life
comes
the
out.
Steam of Half-Life dissipated. They could have released it and it could have been its own thing because then they could have had from Half-Life's release until they decided to release it to advertise it.
Yeah.
But the publisher, Activision, because they do great things.
Yep. Publishers in general are great for the gaming industry.
They turned around and even though they knew that there were bugs in the game, and they said we need X amount of time, they basically said you're gonna have X minus this. Like they didn't give them enough time to fix known bugs within the game, and then once the game started going over budget and over time, they basically said they froze development completely. Then waited a month after freezing it, and then published the game the same day that Half-Life came out.
That's a bad move.
It's a series of bad moves.
Yeah.
A series of bad moves. They did come out with a patch after the game released.
Okay.
And that was the last piece of content that they created, which was one patch.
That sucks.
And then they closed their door after that. The community that played this game fell in love with it. And it's still, as of February of 2019, it got another patch that was made by the community.
Dang. That's like some Skyrim status stuff right there. That's even better than Skyrim. That's better than Oblivion, right?
15 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so the community has been like continuously playing the game and updating it. It's a very interesting game. Like, we know all the bad stuff, right?
Sure.
We've gotten to that part. The game itself was very interesting for its time. It created you as, in the very beginning of the game, you start the game by someone embracing you and turning you into a vampire, and it's your character creation. You get to choose what clan of vampires that you want to be, and based off your choice, it not only affects your abilities, it also affects how you play the game entirely.
So like the clans like decide how people in the world treat you, sort of thing?
Yeah, so the key one, is, like one that's obvious, is there's a group called the Nosferatu, right? Where they are ugly vampires. They look like partial bats, right? And so that changes the game from an extremely social, where you talk to people, find out information, talk about like how
role-playing
different.
game.
A huge role-playing game. It turns it into a completely stealth game because anytime a human sees you, they run in fear.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's actually legitimately sick.
So it like basing your, like one of the first decisions you make in the game changes how you play the game.
It's fun too because unless the game like says explicitly like, hey, this is a different game based on, like, you just play the game and it makes sense. And maybe you'd never know how the other clans would have treated, or how people would have treated you if you had selected the other clans. That's terribly awesome.
Yeah. One of the other things that I didn't mention in the bad section, which I'll mention now, is because of development time, the beginning intro area is Santa Monica. And it's very vibrant, very full. Then you go into Los Angeles. It's grimy, it's dirty, but there's some side stories, stuff like that. But then when you get into the later chapters of the game, there's less side stories, it feels less alive.
You can tell that they were pushing it.
Yeah, and then you get into Chinatown, and it's like basically cool, all combat. And this game had horrible combat. And it was a little bit racist.
Okay.
Player, what's the score? How they hang? Good evening and all that commotion. Welcome to Fat Larry's Trucker Mac, the only store for all your needs after 10 o'clock. I am the proprietor and salesman of the month several years in a row. The ladies call me, oh God, but you can call me Fat Larry with a F-A-T, cause I know I got a weight problem, I just don't give a fuck.
Probably not the case in the new game.
No, well,
And hopefully.
and they kind of briefly touched on that, which when we get into talking about Bloodlines 2, we'll discuss what they had said. They've only done a couple of press things.
Okay.
But the game kind of basically got less and less full and just kind of basically got you to the end point because development time was so difficult. And apparently some of the developers were also not even paid for their last weeks working there. Yeah.
That sucks.
It's really rough. But I still think it's a very interesting thing that all of the stuff that plagued this game, it still had a following, still is getting updated, and then they turn around and hire the lead writing developer, or the lead writer from Bloodlines for Bloodlines 2.
Nice.
And
apparently that's the thing that made it, right? Like, aside from the, like, really... I mean, for 2004, I'd go as far as to say the really ambitious, like, way that the game plays out based on your choices. That plus the role-playing seems like the reasons that people were super into it. So getting the lead writers, like, good move.
And like they had this kind of like press like event that they had, and one of the questions that they asked them, and it was kind of like a hidden, like, cheeky way of asking it, of like, hey, are you gonna not be racist in this one? They were like, what are some of the things that you learned from, you know? And they were like, well, we learned that, we're gonna, make some better choices, and we're going to, really, do our research Like,
that was a very political way of saying, like, we're not going to use stereotypes to define everything in the world.
And I'm not necessarily saying that the question and that answer was in reference to it, but from my perspective, it felt like
I mean, it sounds a lot like
Yeah.
So I don't know why you'd be so coy about something else, you know? There isn't really a solid reason.
Yeah.
And also, it is actually 2019. And, like, I feel like it would be completely insane to not recognize the fact that that's not, like, acceptable now and just do it again. Like, oh, we're holding true to the... Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
And the other key thing is that they not just once, but multiple times talked about the combat, and they said, combat feels good. Combat feels great. We really improved how combat works.
And I know that the trailer that you showed me wasn't gameplay, which, by the way, kudos for you putting that big white lettering at the at the bottom where it said not actual gameplay, so that I'm like, great, expectations set, like, paint a picture for me. But if the combat feels the way that it felt in that trailer, where you were like, oh, I'm gonna pick up this thing that isn't like on my person, it's just kind of like a hammer over there, and like it will come into my hands and I will hit people with it. I just giggling myself. It will fly into my hands, then I can just hit people with it. Like, if it's that sort of like environmental combat, I am mechanically on board.
Sure.
I maybe we should have said this at the beginning, but like this world, this kind of world doesn't really interest me personally that much. But if they pull off something like that with the combat mechanics, I will 100% play the shit out of it.
Yeah. Now, I find the Vampire the Masquerade world very interesting, and it's definitely a game that I have come back to and like touched on for a little bit, looked at, you know, but it's definitely not a system specifically for me that I can play long term. Like, it isn't a Pathfinder, it isn't a D&D, it isn't a Starfinder, where it's like I can sit here and I can play a full-on, long, year-long campaign. One of the people that used to write for us, Rabid, who has been playing a campaign for like all of eternity, like, and it's so crazy. Like, I mean, it's not crazy. It's wonderful that there is these people that really love this game and really follow. In fact, Rabid's actually the first person that introduced Bloodlines to me.
Yeah,
she was streaming and playing it, and I was like, "What is going on? Like, what am I watching right now?"
Same.
And so yeah, I started like digging into it once we found out about Bloodlines 2. Since we're talking about, why don't we just like actually go into Bloodlines 2?
Sure.
The release trailer, the announcement trailer just released. They did a press event where they talked to some of the developers and people within it. You're going to be starting off the game as a victim of a mass embrace, which is basically a bunch of people get turned into vampires at the same time.
Pattern.
Yes.
And I'm assuming during that embrace you figure out what clan you... They didn't say, but it feels very, very similar. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting if they did the same thing in this one where they did in the first one, where you're a fledgling, which means that you're a partial human, partial vampire. So there's kind of like this aspect of how human are you and how vampire are you. They also had hinted that your career and life choices as a human beforehand are also going to affect you as a vampire.
Ooh, okay. That's
Yeah,
cool.
so...
Maybe that's where they're getting their branching pathing from instead of the clan that you belong to. Maybe it's all coming from there. That'd be cool.
I don't know. You are going to be a freelancer, basically, where you're walking the streets and you have no allegiance, and you're able to choose where your allegiance lies within factions.
Okay.
So you're gonna, and it's going to be set in Seattle. And when they ask the developers, why did you choose Seattle? And they're like, because we're based in Seattle.
Because we have all of the inspiration we need outside.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, yeah, and we don't feel like it gets used enough in settings. So,
Well, you guys.
yeah, I thought that was really interesting. So it's going to be set in Seattle. We don't know a tremendous amount, but they do have it set out to giving more and more information. This sounds like a dumb statement, but they have it set that more and more information is going to come out about the game as we get closer to release on specific dates. And if you go to their website, there's actually things that are like little bullet holes that are like coming soon, coming soon, coming soon.
Oh,
so it's going to be more information.
That's smart. Like they already know what they're planning on releasing and when they're planning on releasing it. And we may not know those dates, but we know, first of all, how many things, right? Like we have a number of bullet holes, and we have a central place that we can go and check back for each individual update. Like, It's not stupid.
One of the really interesting things that they also talked about at this meeting is not only is combat really like important and really strong, but they're saying that the script is massive. So you're going to have, and their whole entire thing is that they want to empower the player by choice.
Okay.
Which I really love that idea. Depending on what choices you make is going to make your character what they are.
I do love that idea, but I also now have this like stilted view of when developers say that, because it always ends up being an illusion of choice.
Sure.
And I understand a lot of gaming is illusion. Like when you design a combat encounter, you give the player like 10 times more health with the last 2% of their health, so that they feel like if they clutch out an encounter, like they feel better. So the first part of their health bar is worth nothing, the last part of it's worth everything. So they always feel like they're being challenged. That kind of stuff is stuff developers do all the time. This specific thing bothers the shit out of me when it's not real. Because you know, like if I was in a vacuum and playing games by myself and none of my friends played video games and there wasn't video game media that's being created, I wouldn't maybe be able to tell. Maybe. But I don't. I have friends that play video games. There is video game media being created. And it like the second that I see that my dialogue option in this specific situation didn't matter because that person said the same exact thing, like it just took 2 extra lines afterwards or with a different option, that drives me insane. I hope that's not what's happening here.
I mean, I can't say because I don't
I'm
know.
not expecting it. I'm just saying like,
based off of
nerves,
based off the fact that they're specifically choosing to go after Bloodlines 1 and want to give you the feeling of Bloodlines 1, and the fact that in Bloodlines 1 there's multiple endings, the fact is that based off of your choices really do affect how people interact with you, the fact that dialogue is completely different based off of the clan in which you choose, not just like, hello, clan person. You know, like they're like, oh, you know, they you might not be able to get information from someone, or because you are a specific group, you get this information, but it's conveyed to you differently in a weird way because of how your brain works. And so it's like it's just like really interesting. I'm hoping, and as of right now, I'm just gonna be like, cool. I have no reason to believe that you're going to be lying, especially since you did do the script for the last one. You know, they push combat, they push dialogue, and they also were not co-developing. They were developing Bloodlines 2 and V5 at the same time. And
V5 being
the tabletop version of the game.
That's cool.
At the same time, and so basically,
like a
they said that our rules affected each other.
Oh,
so as they were coming up with means to make their game work, we turned around and came up with things that would change how their game worked. And so they worked together to create both of the systems together so that they were either similar, familiar, or like...
You could pick up one after playing the other and not feel like you were playing a different game.
Yeah.
Like you're just like, oh, this is the graphical representation of the RPG I played, or vice versa. That's pretty cool if they pull that off.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure that there's clearly going to be different aspects.
Of course.
You're not going to be like, see dice rolls. You know what I mean? Like,
if you do, holy shit, that was a bad choice. Don't do that. Abort.
But we'll see. I look forward to seeing more on it. There is going to be 3 different renditions of the game.
Okay, of
like
course.
It's kind of like a standard thing for video games now. $59.99 is the standard edition.
The one I will buy if I end up buying it.
Then there's the $69.99 version, which is the unsanctioned edition, which basically gives you a whole bunch of in-game content. You get in-game art book. They have a developer commentary that you can have.
That's nifty.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
I've seen it in Team Fortress 2. It was free. It was part of the game.
Huh. And then there's a bunch of skins and stuff like that. You're going to get like outfits.
Yeah.
One of the funny things, they actually have a severed arm skin for your weapon.
Huh.
And the reason that's funny is that a lot of the times you could actually rip off someone's arm in Bloodlines 1 and use it as a weapon.
That's hilarious.
So I thought that was kind of like a cool little callback.
Nod back to the thing. I like that.
And then the last one is Blood Moon Edition, which is $89.99. You get all the previous stuff, but you're also getting the season pass.
Gotcha.
Which we don't know what content is going to be coming out with the season pass, but apparently...
Yeah, that's something that I really hope they clarify before trying to take people's money.
You can pre-order right now.
That's dumb.
Yeah, I
don't buy that.
I'm not a fan. Personally, I'm not a fan of not knowing what I'm purchasing.
I don't even need a fucking like trailer of the thing or the gameplay of the. At the very fucking bare minimum, just be like, you get 4 things.
They did say that there's going to be, I believe, 3 different things within the season, but they haven't said the theming on them. They haven't said...
Or the duration. That's more of what I'm looking for. Like, there's going to be one story mission that's going to take this much time and, like, one armor piece. Like, I don't need to see what they look like. I don't need to understand what the context is or the setting. Just, like, value for money, value for time. What am I getting?
Yeah.
If you don't give me that, I'm never going to buy your season pass.
I'm not a big fan of that. Like, if I buy the game, I'm going to buy the $59.99 version, the base model, and then once we get information about the season pass, if I'm still into the game at that point, which, like, let's be honest, like, it's hard for us to be playing a single game for a long period of time because of this show. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm still interested in the game, I'll buy the season pass once I know what I'm gonna get. But that's a problem across all games. I don't think that this is a Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines specific.
But if we don't call it out, then people will think that we don't think it's a problem, but we do.
We'll probably get called out no matter what.
We're always gonna get called out. That's why we love you guys.
Why don't you guys do that? Why don't you head down to the comments and call us out? I don't care what you call us out on.
That's fine.
Just do it.
After you're done with that, call out our like button, call out our subscribe button, call out our bell icon, and then go over to Twitter and call us out there. You can call me out at QueueTimes.
You can call me out at IndigoQT, or you can call all of us out at all of these social medias. Until next time.
If you really want to call us, here's both of our phone numbers.
Whoa, nope. Nope, not putting that there. I'm going to put 555-5555. Until next time.